Wuthering Waves is a game with very enticing combat elements, but at the heart of it, it is still a gacha game. Which begs the question, how can we as players optimize our pool income and team build within the pool decisions that we make? In this video, I'll be giving my recommendations on the various team building paths you could possibly take as an early reference based off the known and possible banners coming to Wuthering Waves, with clearing tower adversity in mind, which is an end game content that you will require 3 teams for. However, just a disclaimer, since this is based on CBT2, if and when more information is released, I will be making a follow-up video to keep everyone updated. So for a start, we first need to know how much pool income we are getting at launch, and credits to I'm Ravenous for doing the hard label and providing us with a ballpark of 240 pools, excluding unannounced events for the first month as a free-to-play player. This does include 90 standard pool currency that we can only use on the beginner banner, standard character banner, as well as the standard weapon pool banner. With the number of pools we're getting, a conservative estimate should net us a beginner banner 5-star character, a standard 5-star weapon, and a event rate up 5-star unit, unless you are the reincarnation of Bad Luck Brian, which at that point you should probably just quit gacha games for good. On the flip side, if you are on good terms with RNGesus, you might even be able to squeeze in a rate up signature weapon for the respective rate up 5-star unit. Now with this basis laid out, we can first touch on the beginner banner that we are going to spend at most 40 pools for a random 5-star unit, with the news of there being a separate beginner selector version with 80 PT, and if you do get that, I highly recommend picking Verena out of the 5 units available. You could definitely go for one of the other 4 units, but personally I feel Verena is going to be a lot more relevant for a longer time frame compared to the other units, being an extremely strong damage support unit. The remaining standard banner pools can go towards the weapon banner with a 100% guarantee at 80 PD, and regardless of whether you're going for either Jiyan or Yinlin in version 1.0, picking the sword out of the 5 seems ideal as it has a quick rate stat line that is valuable and more importantly can be shared between 3 incredibly accessible and noteworthy DPS units in Sanhua, Danjing, and Rover. Next, we are going to take a look at the event rate up banners that are coming in version 1.0. For the first half of 1.0, we are going to have the Jiyan banner followed by the Yinlin banner in the second half. Starting with the Jiyan banner, the associated 4-star rate ups include Danjing, Chixia, and Mortarfi. These 4-star units are all really decent, especially Danjing, which is extremely strong, and it will help a lot if you could get a couple of dupes for her to boost her damage even further. From there, we can build the 3 teams for tower adversity and it will look something like this. Jiyan, Mortarfi, and Verena for team 1, Sanhua, Baizhi, and Chixia for team 2, Danjing, Havoc Rover +1 for team 3. Team 1 is pretty standard, with Mortarfi being a good pairing for Jiyan with the heavy attack outthrow boost, and Verena being a great damage support in general. Verena can also be swapped to team 3 if you require additional damage, as team 3 is likely the team that you want to utilize for the most difficult middle section stage of the tower. Meanwhile, Team 2 is a decent duo with Sanhua and Baizhi, with Chixia being the burst DPS you can swap in when the boss is knocked down. Team 3 is just Danjing carry plus Havoc Rover to utilize the Danjing outthrow buff for a 2-man rotation. This team setup isn't fixed but is intended for a sword 5-star weapon to be shared between Danjing and Sanhua. The remaining pool income can be either spent on Jiyan's signature weapon or saved up for the speculated version 1.1 Havoc unit Chun to round up the Danjing Rover team, but nothing is confirmed when it comes to Chun. It's all just dreams if you know what I'm talking about. Now, I do know more people are interested in saving for the Yinlin banner, which brings along with her Taoqi, Alto, and Yuanwu. These 4 stars are not the most noteworthy, especially after a Yuanwu nerf/rework, but he still pairs fine with Yinlin as a sub DPS/stagger bar breaker, while Taoqi does possess some big damage if you do get her to high resonance chain, otherwise she's more just a support. Either ways, the 3 teams in this case can be formed as such. Taoqi, Chixia +1 for team 1, Yinlin, Verena, Yuanwu for team 2, Sanhua, Baizhi, Rover for team 3. Team 1 is pretty scuffed, especially if you have a low dupe Taoqi, as she's not going to be doing much outside of buffing Chixia for the most part, but if you're lucky enough to get another Danjing, you might be able to add her in and utilize her as the main DPS to round the team off. Team 2 is built to take on the harder stages, mostly relying on Yinlin and Yuanwu for the Electro Duo, and with Verena supporting, you should be able to clear with ease. Note here, I do understand that the meta team is with Kaocharo in Yuanwu's place, but unless you are extremely lucky or planning to reroll, I don't think it's realistic for you to have both Verena and Kaocharo. Lastly, for Team 3, we are looking at Baichi Sanhua Duo, with Rover coming along as a filler DPS. For the Yinlin route, I highly recommend going for her signature weapon String Master, as it elevates her DPS a lot and can be used in the future for Encore if you do happen to get her. If you still have any remaining pools after that, it can potentially go towards saving for the speculated version 1.1 lower half character Jingxi, which might possibly be an Electro DPS and would serve as a good Yuanwu or Verena replacement, though it's still too early to tell whether this will come to fruition. Now all in all, team building is incredibly flexible in Wuthering Waves and also individual dependent, as the units that you luck upon will determine what toys you can play with, but the listed teams are the units you would likely obtain based off the banner rate ups from a theory crafting perspective. Of course, all of this team building experimentation can only be put in place once the game launches, but what you could do instead right now is checking out this video over here where I touch on the optimal echo to pick for the Epco Web event for a much better launch start. I'll see you guys over there. This is Corky Gachas, signing off.